Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today is October 20, I don't know what, 3rd, thank you, 7:44 p.m. This is the RTM Public Works Committee, and we have a interesting agenda tonight. So tonight, Tony is going to take the notes. Thank you very much. And with regards to guests, anybody who needs to speak, of course, make sure you have a mic. There's one standing here that's available and one at the podium. Okay. Just a couple of things to announce. Our first selectman, John Zagrodzky, recently had an interview that was put in the patch where he has announced that the Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee will be relaunched. Okay, so stand by to see how that develops. The other thing is that the Board of Selectmen recently received and accepted an audit from WT Group. This was an initiative that was put forth by WestCog, where numerous municipalities are being audited for their compliance with ADA regulations. And there's numerous different phases that they are recommending that would be instituted over the course of time. Much of it involves the parks and recreation, but other parts of the town as well, public works. And that will be in various different phases over the course of time. If we go all in, it's about $3.9 million. So that will be, you'll be seeing that coming up in future budgets. So just be aware, because these are issues that we are either directly or indirectly involved with as public works. Okay, so first thing on our agenda tonight is discuss and vote on a resolution to adopt ordinance for the abatement of illicit sump pump discharge in public sewers. I've sent numerous documents out to you all. If you wish, I can read some of these back again, which may be germane, because I think this is a very a topic that's gathering attention, okay? So at the meeting on October 6th, the Board of Selectmen discussed a request from the Darien Sewer Commission to adopt an ordinance for the abatement of illicit sump pump discharge into public sewers. Mr. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works, was present and presented the request. Mr. Gentile explained that sump pump discharges into the sanitary sewer system results in treatment of non-sewage flows. The Sewer Commission has been working to remove extraneous flows from the sanitary system. The proposed ordinance requires all properties served by the town sanitary sewer system to complete the sump pump compliance statement. The proposed ordinance provides for a fine of $250 for failing to return the compliance statement within the allotted time or for providing false information. The Sewer Commission held a public hearing on September 9th, 2025, passed a motion to approve the change to the Code of Ordinances. The board discussed the request and voted to recommend the proposed ordinance to the RTM. So that's where we're at. So I want to, and I'm sure Ed can chime in at some point with this, but there is already an ordinance and a regulation that prohibits illicit sump pumps. Well, there's not an ordinance, but there's a regulation that already prohibits that, okay? What we want to try and do here is more, if I may say, codify this into an ordinance, which does then also clarify their ability to enforce some sort of fine if the compliance form is not filled out or if it's falsely filled out with false information. And that's basically it. Okay, so I'd like to open this up to the table. Anybody who has a question or comment of Ed and possibly Susan, they're here from the Sewer Commission to discuss this. Anybody have any questions?
We've
Yeah.
talked about it a couple of occasions, and always been very supportive. So no further questions. We've discussed it, and we've always been quite supportive. So absolutely.
Go ahead.
So that's on. All right, so I missed, I think, some of our meetings. I think you explained one thing that I was curious about. So this is already legal, right? Because the very first sentence of the ordinance implies that we've never had such a law before. Is that case, or what are we changing by making it an ordinance versus a regulation? Is that a distinction with a difference?
That is a difference that is now coming before us with the ordinance. Ed, would you be willing to tackle that? All right, thank you.
Ed Gentile, Director.
Okay, is the mic on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
How about now? Good? I wanted to go, good. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works for the town of Darien. So what we have right now in our regulations is the fact that you are not allowed to discharge sump pump, storm water, anything like that into our groundwater, into our sanitary sewer system. It is also part of the state of Connecticut plumbing code. So for, I'd say 2016 to 2019, we would send out a notification along with the backflow valve notifications to let folks know that, first of all, you check your house, you shouldn't be doing this. And backflows were, hey, check your sewer line to make sure if there's anything was back up because of your basements or let's take a look at that too. And that was one of the programs that we had started. But what it allows now, and according to our attorneys, is putting it in as an ordinance. It allows us to codify the approach of putting in a fine and placing a fine on someone for noncompliance. Now, the Sewer Commission, Susan and the others, and myself and Darren, we've been talking about this for about 2.5 years. I'm trying to come up with a system and an approach and a way to roll this out so that folks can understand we're not here to penalize you. We first want to make you aware of something. Our sewer flows treated in the city of Stamford cost us anywhere between $2.9 and $3.6 million a year. That's 75% of my budget for the sewer. Half of that over the last couple of years, and it's came down a little bit this year, looks like evident of the work that we've been doing. Half of that is illicit connections or illicit flows, inflow or infiltration, some way of getting it into our system. So what did? We went after what we thought was their biggest problem, inflow or infiltration into our sewer main pipes. Smoke testing, whatever we had to do, we did a lot of testing. And we've lined a lot of pipes now. We have a phase 3 just starting out now to line another 15,000 linear feet of pipe. Older pipe, the clay pipes, the ones with the larger gaps for the joints. Manholes went in there too, where the pipes come in. We're seeing a lot of water that came in. We sealed those up also. So these are approaches that we're doing. And we were still talking about, okay, how do we get to the point where the low-hanging fruit was already grabbed now? We're gonna have to talk about the hard one, right? There's no way for us to know who has a sump pump and who doesn't. But we didn't want to make it punitive. We want your cooperation. We want to know who it is. We want to know that, okay, you have it, it's discharging in the proper location. You don't have one at all. Those are the responses we hope to get back. Mr. Flaherty? Craig Flaherty, Chairman of the Sewer Commission. And we want cooperation. And the main part of this whole thing is we figure we can get 2/3 to 3/4 of the people to respond to us. So 5,400 sewer users, residents, we're going to get maybe 4,000 responses. And that's hopeful. And then we're going to narrow it down now. And we're going to take the information that we didn't get, because that's important too. And I can plot that on the map of the town of Darien. And I can start to envision, okay, why wouldn't people, maybe they don't know they have a sump pump or not. I've heard that before. They do know, they just don't know where it's hooked up. Maybe they didn't understand the letter. We're giving them opportunities to come to us and let us know that. That 6-month window to get it repaired, the Sewer Commission, if they understand that you're working on it and you ask for an extension, I know these folks will give you an extension, as long as we know you're working on disconnecting it from our sewer. A lot of folks here in Darien do not know that in 2019, 2020, we were sued for having overflows from our sewer system onto the streets. Okay? And a lot of that was during the heavy rainstorms. Well, if my sewer system can work when it's dry and it overflows when it rains, well, obviously I is playing a huge role in why we have these overflows and why we started to take on this program. We're spending about $4.5 million so far over the last 5 years. We're probably going to spend another 5 by the time we're done, making sure this system is as tight as we can make it. The last critical piece is the inflow connections from private residents. And we can't get into people's houses. It's against the law. We can't go to barge down. We are not the sewer police. We're none of that. Though in part of the ordinance you read is we are allowed, or we can come into the house and do an inspection. That still needs the personal property owner's approval to do that. And you can say no. You know, yeah, we should have the ability to come in. No, I'm sorry, you're not coming to my house. That draws a line for us. I'm pretty sure, though, the sewer commission will start to look at that further down the line and how do we get their cooperation. And I can see that happening, but that's further down the line. What I'm trying to do is grab as many of the residents I can and eliminate them and start plotting where I'm having the problems and compare them to where I'm getting people with sump pumps. And I'm pretty sure they're going to line up pretty good. I find that we have 2 pump stations out of the 14 that after a substantial rainstorm event ends, these 2 pump stations run significantly longer than everybody else. And why is that? Well, the groundwater now has come up, the sump pumps now are running, and now they're pumping it into our sewer system. So we can hypothesize that, but there's no way for me now to go in and stop that flow from going in. I have to find out where it is. So I have to ask the residents for their cooperation. And I think that's the approach the Sewer Commission, after many iterations, and I say many, 2.5 years worth, came to this solution. It's not punitive. We want your cooperation. We're here to answer your questions. We're going to take the data, we're going to digest it, and we're going to spit out some hypothesis of where we should focus a little bit more on our work. That, in short, is what we're doing. And I'm sorry it was so long.
No, it's excellent. So,
Sorry, can I continue my...
as I understand it, the letter going out, the initial letter, is planned to go out in January. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Okay. We're going to send out, and you know, it's supposed to be, you have to return it to us in 3 months. We have a sewer commission that thinks a little bit ahead. I think we all are thinking too. I'm going to send out another one in April. I'm going to say, hey, in case you didn't get it, in case you're a new owner, in case you're on vacation, here's another letter. It's going to say the same thing. Hey, we would like you to cooperate. Tell us know about pumps. So basically, you're going to get 2 letters before our billing time in October comes. And if in that 9-month window we haven't heard from you, there's going to be an assessed $250 fine to your property. And it'll be in your sewer bill. And it will get interest. And it will do just like your sewer bill. If you don't pay it, there's going to be interest accrued. At that point, you want to come into appeal to this. Absolutely. We can actually freeze your sewer bill and your interest at that time. Knowing that you're coming in and trying to work with us, we will work with you.
That's the most important thing.
We've done that since I've been here in 10 years, and this sewer commission believes that's the only way that this works for us and works for the residents too.
Right. I'd just like to point out one thing. I had sent a series of questions off to Ed, and Ed very graciously came back with answers, which I really appreciate. So one of the questions I asked him was, how much Aquarian water was delivered to the 5,400 sewer users this past year? And his answer was approximately 512 mg, which I assume is millions of gallons, okay? And then I asked, after that, how much sewer effluent did we send to Stanford Water Pollution Control Authority this past year? And his answer was approximately 728 million gallons. So the difference between 500 and 700, 200 million gallons is what we're talking about. And that's an excessive amount of water that's going there that is really essentially clear groundwater.
And if you look at the number, it's about 35, 38%, something in that range. It's been a very dry year, the fiscal year that we used right there.
Yes.
And our work with the other sewer lines of the rehab that we have done, the 2 phases before the third one we're doing now, that work has reduced that number. Before that, the year before that, we were at 54%. So what I'm saying is, if it was 400 million gallons of water used by Aquarion, effluent to the city of Stamford was 800 million. We were half of the flow. The other half was I&I.
All right, so I think based on your numbers, you said it's up to $3.6 million. You're guessing 1.8 million is due to this, right? So
And I went back about
it's a big
5 years.
monetary
The
problem.
range was 1.2 to about 1.67, 1.7.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on
It's
how
a-
much
it's a
rain we
lot.
get.
It's a lot of money to be paying to treat clean water.
But you all, what I'm a little surprised you're saying is that, so today, we know we have this problem, there's no inspection regime. You're saying because we're not allowed by law? Is the town just not allowed by law?
I
or is
can't
it just
force
not
myself,
practical?
I can't force myself into your house.
It's the Fourth Amendment.
Correct.
I can't-
Hold that Fourth Amendment question,
And I can't go on
because
your
I have a
property.
related
I can't go on your
question.
property, it's trespass. I mean, and that's not the direction the sewer commission wanted to go. We don't want to force ourselves on you.
I understand. All right, so in exchange, we have this regime that, in theory, every 6 months, you could send a questionnaire to someone, and if someone lies, you're in the same place, right? Because you're
Yes.
not going to be able to verify it, right?
I'm not going to say that we did not talk about that aspect of returning the statement.
It's not a town of Boy Scouts, we know. Right.
I also have to treat it as a whole, as I need information. If you're going to tell me that 1% is going to fib to me, but the other 99 is going to tell me the truth, I'm
Still
okay with
information.
that right now.
Okay.
I am. Sooner or later, though, things are caught. We work so closely with the building department right now. They go in and do inspections. They let us know if they do find these things. We send them a notice. We work with the homeowners to try to get it disconnected and put it in the proper place and so on. So again, we're already doing a small amount of that coordination, a very small amount. We would like to get a better handle on what our sump pumps and how they're affecting our existing sewer system right now. And the sewer commission and myself and Darien, we think it has an impact, and I think we can help reduce it.
All right. So you're hoping, right? Because other than the $250, and honestly, you don't have a greater enforcement mechanism than you had before, right? Okay, same place. No. So your amendment, I am an amateur lawyer. I'm not an attorney. This question will be obvious perhaps, not by an attorney, but I'm curious if the commission asked this. So you are sending a statement again and again to someone that if they don't offer testimony against themselves, per the Fifth Amendment, they are fined. Is that legal?
Well, we ran this through our attorney, and the statement was included along with the ordinance and our regulation changes that we made. He made some comments to it, but what we're asking for is compliance. Compliance would be the returning of the statement. And with non-compliance, we can fine you. That's the explanation I got. I am not a lawyer. That's why we had our town attorneys review it. That's why he wrote the ordinance the way he did and approved the statement the way it is.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to press you on that because I know you're not a lawyer
I'm
either.
not.
But yeah, it just seems like an odd thing to me that you can ask someone to provide testimony against themselves, and if they refuse to do so, they get a fine. But I trust councils figure that out.
Well,
It's not testimony, it's just actually facts.
we're at, and
Right, well, so you're saying
You're asking for representation. No one's accused of a crime here.
it's true of the fact, but it's no different than if I asked you, have you committed a robbery?
Right, no, I have not.
That's a factual question, right? But you're actually not bound to answer it, and if you don't answer it, I don't fine you. So again, I'm not a lawyer. If this has been through the attorneys, it just struck me that if you're going to be doing this again and again and again, someone might say, this whole thing is just not enforceable. But it sounds like you've run it through council.
That's the very first thing we did.
In this town.
All right. One aspect also I'd like to just touch upon, and that is that we've had quite a bit of development that's been going on in town. And of course, every one of those applications goes through the Sewer Commission to make sure that there is capacity to support the development. But at the same time, we have the inflow and infiltration. If development continues, could we at some point conceivably arrive to a point where if we don't reduce some of the I&I, we may not be in a position where we can't say with confidence that we have the capacity for some of these new developments that might come to us? Is that conceivable?
I think I would state it just a little bit differently.
Okay.
I've already told you what happens when it rains really, really hard here. We
Right.
have those overflows, they've reduced. So I&I is taking up capacity in our mains. We do, with all of the larger developments, we have set a limit. If you go above a certain limit, we need a full report analysis, and we actually have our consultant review. We have a third party do it. We do not want to be the folks that make that determination. Not that we couldn't, but I think it brings in someone neutral to review it, and someone that's been working on our system now for about 6 years. So with that said, it could possibly raise an alarm with the commissioners on whether or not approving a development is going to tax the system beyond its capacity. And I think we've had that discussion too, which is why we're continuing to do our work to reduce those erroneous flows and remove them from our system so that if there is capacity needed, it will be there.
It will be there, yeah.
And I can tell you, dry system, our system will handle anything that we have here, plus its developments that are going on. You throw in the wild card of inflow or infiltration, and our analysis have to be done before we can approve it right now, because we're only in the middle of these rehabs, and we have a lot more to do.
Right. One last question, I'm sorry. And you answered this, but I'm talking for everybody else's benefit. Right now, our contract requires that we pay at least a minimum, which is, I think, 12%. So if we're able to curtail some of the inflow and infiltration, what impact could that have on future negotiations relative to the minimum?
That is a really good question, because that was a bone of contention when we started our contract negotiations. It was at 12.5. I'm sorry. It was at 12.5 when we started. We were able to knock it down to 12. The comments I made as we went through the negotiations, we're going to get to a point where we're going to be below that number. We're going to be less than 12% of the flow that entire treatment plant handles. And we're going to want credit for the hard work that we did. Stanford is booming. They're developing everywhere. That's good for them, but it also puts more flow into their system. We'd like to get a little credit back when we've invested $5, $7, $10 million in our system, and we'd like to see that come back to us. So during the next negotiation, there'll be a new number out there. It'll be something that we discuss with the Sewer Commission before I sit down and negotiate with them. But yeah, my anticipation is it will be lower than 12. There's no guarantee. They don't have to. I think that we're partners. They think that we're sewer users. And that's nothing wrong with that. We use their their system to treat our sewers.
And Ed, just to clarify, when you're saying a number of 12 or 12.5, that's a percentage of the aggregate total annual budget of the Stanford WPCA, is that correct?
Yes, and it's not the entire budget. There's some items that are taken out of their budget that have nothing to do with our flow going to their treatment plant and being treated.
But for a layman, it's 12 to 12.5% currently is the floor of what we can spend as a percentage of the aggregate relevant expenses.
We cannot go any lower than 12% of the expenses that they incur, capital and operating.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I have one last comment, and then we'll hear from Craig. The other issue that runs through my mind is that when we get a heavy rainstorm and the pumps are working hard and they're sending all of that over to Stamford, they're getting a lot of water as well. And at some point, and it has happened in the past, where they can't keep up with it all, and it gets dumped into the harbor, and that's sewage. And that's when things happen like beaches get closed, and the nutrients in Long Island Sound go very high, and that's not a positive thing, and that's definitely an after effect of all the water that we're sending, not just us, Stamford's involved as well, but it's certainly, I think, something that should be taken into consideration.
We've made some major adjustments in the way we treat our system and how we make it as watertight, right to the point where I know there's areas that flood, streets that flood, parks that flood. Our manholes are there, and we've gone to watertight manholes now. So we're trying to make it as tight as we possibly can. The other piece of our contract says there's some maximum instantaneous and daily flows that we can have that go over to City of Stamford. What we've seen, though, is with this work that we're doing is some reduction in those numbers, actual numbers, keeping us below the contract limits, if you will. So we send more outside the contract limits or above the contract limits over to the City of Stamford, and they have an SSO, which is a sewer overflow, that goes out. We are now on the hook with them. And that's the part that we can reduce by reducing our I&I and the opportunity of that ever happening.
Okay, thank you. Craig, would you like to say something? Craig Flaherty, he's the chairman of the Sewer Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut. The first client to a professional engineer and the first priority for a water pollution control authority is public health, safety, and welfare. This is a public health matter. You mentioned the concept of the wastewater treatment plant in Stamford overflowing, but there's also potential overflows in our town. So step one, let's stop those. Step two, as the chairman of the Sewer Commission, we have effectively taxing authority, which is what your sewer user fee is. This year we were able to have a 0% increase in our sewer user fee. I would very much like to continue those 0% increases into the future as the chairman, so that I see as job number two. Okay. And then my third thought, I think, which has gotten some traction with people that have been reviewing this, is the idea of fairness or parity. So there are a small number of users, we don't know the percentage, that have sump pumps discharging into the sewer that is costing on an individual basis significantly more money than a typical sewer user. So there are a few percentage of people that sewer users, I think that the rest of us are subsidizing. And so we're trying to get down to fairness and parity. So these are, I think, just three important things to keep in mind, and that's kind of what we think about on the commission level. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, we do not have a quorum, but I think we can at least take a vote for a consensus on the ordinance. Is that okay? So can I have a motion to take a vote of consensus to the ordinance? So moved. Jeff moves. Do I have a second? Sense of the meeting. Okay, thank you, Frank. Frank has corrected me that it's the sense of the meeting. Do I have a second? I have a second. Yeah. Second, okay. So any discussion to the motion? No? All right, are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of the ordinance to control sump pump connections? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Ed? Thank you. Craig? Susan? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, so second up on our agenda, we have the discuss and vote on the resolution to purchase 2.01 acres of Coons open parking lot at 37 West Avenue. We have a summary, which I've sent out to you in advance, a resolution to purchase, which we will have to add as an amendment to the bonding resolution. That's guidance that I received indirectly from the bond counsel through Jack Davis. And then we would vote on that, and then discuss and vote on an amended resolution of the bond for the purchase of 37 West Avenue, okay? And then also discuss a resolution to approve the initial parking fee. So we'll start off with a discussion about the very straightforward question of do we wish to purchase 37 West Avenue? And I think our role as Public Works is, in my mind, foremost, is this a valuable asset that we think would add to the town of Darien? And, the other things we can talk about, but I think that's really the paramount question. Anybody want to comment further on that? Yes, Carolyn?
I would say, yes, it's a valuable asset. We know that because we use it. It's already here. We know what its use is. What I don't know, and I'm not finished, but I've been talking with some of my constituents, and I had one person say, what do we need that for? It's only 300 spaces. Do we really need the 300 spaces? And so that's a big question is, what would happen if those 300 spaces were taken away? Would people stop riding the trains? Would they move to Norotan Heights? What, is it okay? Can we absorb it or not? So that's one question. We were talking earlier about, possible other uses. Do we let the market decide? And do it that way. Do we need this property, and do we need it to be a parking lot? So that's.
Does anybody want to respond to that, or do we want to allow our first selectman to chime in on the question? It's okay. So we have John Zagrodzky,
I'm on the spot.
a high-level official here at the town of Darien, first selectman. Yeah, press your button. Yeah.
So I would say that this has been an important parking asset for decades, and it just happens that it's been privately run. And so what we have a chance to do now, since the family wants to sell the lot, is to keep it as parking. Right? If we don't buy it, the highest and best use of that property is to convert it to multifamily transit-oriented development. So if we don't buy it, it immediately is going to be converted into something besides parking. And so right now it's used for commuter parking, but there's lots of parking that could actually be moved there. So for example, one of the things we have is there may be some empty spaces in our transit lots, but there are no empty spaces, or at least a lot of filled spaces in our retail parking, which is in the central business district. And so one of the ideas for this is we could either keep it as a service lot and try to direct employee parking to go over to that area, or keep it as commuter parking and build a parking garage. And we could dedicate that space to have all of our downtown, our business district employees park in that lot and walk to work, as opposed to parking in the areas where customers park. That'll enhance business for the individual establishments there, and I think make a better economic climate for the town. So the point being is that we don't have to be prescriptive about what this is going to be. There are lots of parking options where we could fully utilize that space, and buying it gives us control over that decision. Now, let's stipulate for the court that you're right, that maybe we don't need parking. Okay, we could decide that a year, 2, 3 years from now, and if we really decide, you know what, we can just do without this parking, we don't need it, we can sell that and have somebody put in multifamily housing. I guarantee you we'll make money on that property. So it's a win no matter how you look at it, right? We either use it for parking now, we let it go to multifamily development in the future. Either way, the town is going to win by buying this property today.
Am I still on? Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Of course.
Can we afford it? I feel like every day we're asked to come up with $3 million for this and $3 million for that. Where are we?
So I'm going to give a presentation to the RTM on town finances on Monday, and I will go through our debt situation. I've got capital projections through 2040 that talk about kind of not only where we've been, but where we reasonably could be going with town finances. Quote, can we afford it is ultimately a little bit of a subjective question. There's a few objective criteria, which is, all right, so if we borrow a lot of money, at what point is our credit rating affected, right? And I have answers to that question. At what point is it too much for taxpayers to bear? Unfortunately, that's kind of subjective. It kind of depends. I think when you look at $5 million versus what we've spent money on otherwise, so for example, one of the things that I'll talk about in the presentation is just school spending. So for Ox Ridge, for Henley Homes and Royal, and prospectively for the renovation in Middlesex, which is really the next big renovation we're going to do, all of that is $350 million to get that done. And this is for schools. So that's obviously something that a lot of people move to town for, and they want schools to be in first-class shape, and I get that. And yeah, we're going to invest that money to make that happen. And so if I compare that versus $5 million for this lot, it doesn't matter in the scheme of things in terms of whether we can afford it. I think the bigger picture question about what we can afford is going to be answered through this presentation that I'll give. And the reality is that for most of the spending, it really is school related. And I think at the end of the day, we probably don't have much choice whether to do the spending. We've got choice into when we do the spending. So you could delay Middlesex for a while, that type of thing. And I'll talk about that in more detail. But ultimately, we're going to have to renovate these schools. There's not really a choice. So I think the $5 million in the scheme of the larger debt picture doesn't change the answer in terms of the question about whether we can afford it or not, in my judgment.
Right, but just because it doesn't
Frank.
change the answer, right?
No.
Sorry to interrupt, John. I don't
No,
want to.
please, go ahead.
Just because the 5 million wouldn't change the answer, because the overall aggregate principles is an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude larger, right? If an individual taxpayer determines, gee, this is too much in the aggregate to spend, and plus or minus 5 million doesn't change their personal view of the spend, right? You would still want to reduce that burden, right?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're very mindful of this, and we want to keep those expenditures under control. At the same time, having adequate parking that supports businesses downtown that allows them to flourish and pay taxes, and adequate schools such that this remains an attractive place for people to move to means that you can take your house and sell it tomorrow for far more than what you paid. And keeping up these types of investments to make this town really a #1 destination for families who are willing to pay to be here, I think is the other side of that equation. And so I don't want to minimize the importance that we have in trying to manage spending. We've just kind of caught ourselves at a moment of a perfect storm where we've really decided that we need to make serious investments to upgrade our schools, and it's a ton of money. And it just so happened that Great Island came onto the market, and we all made a very big collective decision that that was the right acquisition for the town. And so we've kind of caught ourselves at a moment where we're at historic highs in terms of debt. My judgment remains that as painful as that is, and nobody likes to spend money like that, these were investments that were worthwhile to make, and we can afford them. We'll get through it. Debt service actually does start to drop off in a few years, and in time we'll get back to where we were, again, based on the projections I'll show Monday. But yeah, it's going to take 15 years to get there.
Can I follow up with that? I'm sorry.
Please.
Your 350 million total was for Henley Homes Royal and Middlesex together?
Plus Oxridge.
Plus Oxridge, okay. We've already committed to and spent the money on Oxridge and Henley Homes Royal.
Correct.
So how much of that is in the past, which is water over the dam, which we can't control, versus the controllable bit, which is your estimate for Middlesex? If I remember from your past, it was 50 to 60 million at Middlesex?
I had about 60, and the superintendent's met with architects. He's projecting 75 to 90.
Okay, so of that 350 million, in fact, 275 or more is already spent and committed. Like, we have no discretion over that anymore. That's gone.
We don't really have any discretion about updating Middlesex either. I mean,
It's-
we could-
it's
we
in-
could-
it's in our
we
control.
we can tweak it at the margins, we can delay it, but not doing a renovation in terms of HVAC and systems and modernizing that school for what constituents demand in this town, which is the reason they moved here, we can't really change that dynamic, in my judgment. You're right to bring it up, but we're going to spend the money on those schools. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
30 West Avenue, in my opinion, we have a triple net lease there, where we are responsible for the maintenance of the lot, which we're paying for those expenditures. So the $5 million to have the sanity of having property within the town that we can, like John said earlier, that we don't need it liquidated and have those assets available to the town. I think it's a smart investment.
Well, you bring up a good point. What are we spending to lease it?
I don't understand the
I didn't
question.
know
We're
that
not, we're
Yeah.
not leasing.
We don't lease it.
We
It's
don't lease.
privately owned. The owner might,
It's privately owned,
Situation.
and he collects fees from people who work there.
The residents, whoever parks there.
No, he charges commuters, anybody who
Okay.
parks there, residents or non-residents.
Could probably look into with the parking passes. There are other ways that we can develop money in there. We can put charging stations that also could create revenue as well. So there's opportunities there for the town to expand on that. But in my opinion, it's a valuable piece of land that even if the town decides to sell it in the future, we could put stipulations on what kind of facility, if we sell it, what they can develop in there. I think that can be done.
You can do that.
Yeah, I saw your presentation, and I thought that you pointed out, this is a meaningful amount of parking in town. I forget the number, I want to say like 7%.
It's 15% of our town
15%,
parking.
right? So we have a parking pass waiting list that is years long. So I think the question now, I know that's maybe an imperfect indicator of demand, but I think it's an indicator of demand. And I think from a traffic perspective, if you do the math, I think the presentation showed there's like peak 180 cars a day are parking there. In the past, it used to be more, right? Well, think about it. If 180 people go to the train station, park the car and go to the office, if their spouse has to pick them up and drop them off, that's at least 360 car trips through the middle of town that we're not. Not to mention the traffic generated by what someone else would build there. So I think it's very forward-looking. I share the concerns about, $5 million here, $10 million there, pretty soon we're talking real money kind of thing. But I do think it's forward-looking, and we're committing to nothing other than owning it and parking cars there for the moment. So I think it's very forward-looking, even though I'd prefer not to keep doing $5 million here and $10 million there. I think it's pretty forward-looking.
the timing is
Frank?
difficult.
Yeah, John, I'm sorry, maybe this is in the presentation. Is there an estimate, if the parking rate is increased to $10 per day, an estimate of the cash flow per year that would be thrown off by that parking lot?
Well, we have in the video that I prepared, there's a slide that shows what the estimated revenue is for calendar year 2025, and that takes into account the fact that they raised the rates on that lot to $10 a day. So that's what it'll be for 2025. It
And what's
doesn't
that
take
number?
I think it's $347,000 for this year.
Okay, so ballpark 350
Good
against a $5 million acquisition cost.
Yeah, I would not look at this as we're buying the property to set it up to where it generates cash to pay the debt. I would not look at it that way. We're going to have to make some changes to the lot. One of the questions that has come up is, what do we price the lot at? So currently, all of our daily parking lots in town are priced at $5 a day. The Coons lot is $10 a day. So one of the things we got to think about is whether we equalize those prices and we take the Coons lot down to $5 a day so it matches all the other lots. Some have asked whether we could raise the rates on all the other lots. Well, we did that a couple of years ago from $4 to $5. That was a 25% increase. I don't think there's much appetite to raise those rates now. So we're not making any decisions on that right now. We'll kind of get that back to everybody in terms of our recommendations. But let's let it sit for a while and we'll get back to you. Don't know.
So the back of the envelope math that I was just doing was, if it's a $5 million acquisition and we were taking in $350,000, again, roughly ballpark, that's 7% of the total purchase price. If we cut the rate in half, it's 3.5% of the purchase price. Our municipal rate on debt is less than that. So by my imperfect, and again, I know we can create an office of muni bond dealers in this town, and I am not one of them, but just by my rough math,
I don't know, he's pretty close to one. What do you think, guys?
it seems like at least the cash flow coming off the lot would at least cover the interest cost of the.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For the first 2 years, if we do interest only, which we've typically done for our new borrowings, at current parking rates, the cash flow from that lot will more than cover interest on that debt.
Okay.
What
Yes.
changes would you have to make to the lot?
Take out we're going to incorporate it into the town's parking lot. So right now, there's a gentleman there who collects ticket revenue and all that.
So just changing the way people pay for
Correct.
parking?
Well, we
Okay.
would change it to how you pay at every other lot. So you can pay with an app on your phone, you can go to the station platform to do that. It would be just like every other daily lot that we have. Yep.
The Board of Finance met this week, and they approved to go forward with the bond authorization. And one of the comments was that this was described as being a defense purchase to defend it from being taken in by other hands. And so that's, to my mind, a major driving force that I think justifies the purchase. Because we've had so much development, this would at least allow us to have control over that land, take a pause on any further development, at least not on that property for the near term, and take time to analyze it and see, as time goes by, what we might do with it. And so in that respect, I'm definitely in favor of the purchase. Anybody else have any other comments or questions regarding this proposal?
Rolf, can I just reiterate that the finding from, and I don't have the consultant's name in front of me, I'm sorry, the finding from the consultant was that the highest and best use for this was not as a surface parking lot, but was instead as a mixed-use development. And by mixed use, I assume we were talking about the same sort of thing we see elsewhere on, say, Post Road, so a mix of residential, commercial, and retail.
Yep.
Yeah, and the state has a very, as I think you're aware, the state has a very high interest on transit-oriented development. And so, I mean, you can't get much closer to transit
Right.
than this
Very
parking
hard.
lot, okay? Unless you go on the railroad track.
And
To
remember,
that point,
kids,
John-
don't go on the railroad tracks.
I was going to ask, would this, you may not be able to answer this question, but would this put us on some sort of naughty list with the state if we're just sitting on a lot right by the station and preventing development, like stifling development?
No. In fact, there was a walkability tour that took place, I guess, a couple weeks ago that was sponsored in part by an outfit called Desegregate CT, and they are very focused on affordable housing and all that. So the professionals from that organization showed up, and we were joined by State Senator Bob Duff, C.C. Marr, another rep whose name escapes me, but from out of this area, and they came on that walk as well. And so one of the things that they talked about was what a great job Darien has done with regard to development like that and transit-oriented development. I mean, we've made a ton of progress in that area, so much so that those senators posted on social media saying, wow, Darien really does that right. And so I think actually our standing with certainly organizations like that, as well as those state senators, is actually quite good right now. So I don't think actually buying this piece of property creates a problem. And by the way, we're looking for opportunities to cooperate as well. I don't want to do something that unduly either damages the character of the town or creates incremental traffic that we don't want. At the same time, I think we all recognize there's a housing problem in the state and the nation more broadly. And coming up with ways for us to contribute to that solution, I think makes good sense. The governor said when he vetoed House Bill 5002, he said, look, I really want this to be I want to come in and say, look, what we need is more affordable and more transit-oriented development. The how part of that is I'd like the towns to answer that question. And so I think each town, including ours, is obligated to answer the governor's call and say, here's what we propose to do it in a way that works for us. And so if you look at kind of housing trends in town and how we've done that, I think it works pretty well. And the fact that these senators were complimentary of our efforts and you know, they're big into affordable housing, I assure you, speaks well of the efforts in this town to try to answer the governor's call. So I feel good about this.
All right, so if there isn't any other questions or comments, I'd like to go to the resolutions. As I mentioned earlier, with guidance from the bond counsel, the way it works is that we need to have a linking of both the approval and the bond authorization together. So I'm going to ask first that we move to amend the bond resolution with the purchase of the property, the resolution to consider and approve the purchase of the real property as known as 37 West Avenue, Darien. So can I have a motion to amend the bond resolution with the resolution to consider the purchase? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Any discussion? No? Okay. So can I have a vote to amend the bond resolution? All in favor?
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining? Okay. We have one abstention. Okay. So we now have
Rolf, sorry, to be clear, that was to amend the
amend
resolution.
the bond resolution with the consideration to approve the purchase.
By adding the consideration.
By adding the consideration,
Amend the resolution to include the purchase.
purchase approval of real property at 37 West Avenue. Got it. Okay, so in essence, these two are now together. Correct. So I need a motion to vote on the amended bond resolution of $5,200,000 for the parking lot at 37 West Avenue. Jeff Kraus moves for the amendment. Rich seconds. All in favor, raise your hand.
Just a clarifying question before we vote. Is this now the resolution where we're recommending the purchase of the property? Or is it a resolution about a bond?
We're actually doing both, because when we amended the bond resolution with the,
So this is a single resolution where we are recommending the purchase of the property?
And the
we
bond.
are also recommending the bonding. as
The
per-
approval of the bonding, yes.
correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, not at all. Okay, so are we ready to vote? All in favor? Okay, we have Frank votes no. Okay.
All right, so on the, just so I'm clear, on the motion to amend the resolution, you abstained.
Abstain because I wasn't going to approve the resolution.
I understand. Yep.
Okay, last related to this discussion of 37 West Avenue. Discuss and vote on a resolution to approve initial parking fee of $10 per day for the parking lot at 37 West Avenue. Again, I sent out in advance the summary and the resolution, which I have before me. Basically, we have an authority that's been given with previous rulings that delegates the setting of the fees for the town's parking lots to what is called the Town Parking Authority, which in essence is the Board of Selectmen. Okay? But in the initial setting of the parking fee, that first has to be approved by the body, the representative body, and then that authority then transfers, in essence, over to parking authority to pick it up and take it from there. So that's in essence what's going to happen here. I just want to make sure everybody has an understanding about that.
I'm confused.
Okay, that's fair.
Didn't I just hear? Are we talking about
Here's the problem. So the ordinance that empowers all this is written specifically to include just the existing town parking lots and setting them all at $5. So the problem is that the way the ordinances are written, there's not really a slot that you can slot in the Coons lot and slot in that we're going to collect $10 a day. So what this essentially does is that it changes the resolution to allow us to include the Coons lot now as a town lot, and we'll call it Leroy North. I think that's where we're going with that. And then also to charge a differential rate of $10 a day for now, while we sort out how we're going to price all this. So we have to do this because as a technical matter, once we take ownership of the lot, we don't have ordinance authority to actually manage it and collect revenue. But yeah,
No, not at all, not at all.
That's why we have to do this.
If I read it correctly, after we grant the authority, then the Board of Select, the parking authority can change that rate,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we
They could at some
could, yes,
point,
we could do that. Yeah, that's right.
For now, we're going to set it at the $10 with approving this, and that is the current rate at the parking lot. Okay, so essentially in that regard, it's not going to change in the near future. As time goes by, that's something else. Okay. This will have some maintenance costs. That'll fall into Public Works. I don't think there's anything that Public Works can't handle here that they're not already doing. Yeah, some plowing.
That's it. There's no expense with
There's
rings.
not, we have the drainage project that's coming up in the future that addresses the drainage issue on this property. So as time goes on and we execute that, that'll be resolved. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so can I have a motion to the resolution approving the adoption of initial daily parking fees of periodic parking passes at 37 West Avenue for $10 a day? Do I have a motion? Jeff moves. Do I have a second? Vincent seconds. Any discussion on the resolution put forth? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, we have unanimous vote. Thank you very much. John, thank you.
Rolf, since you,
Gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Rolf, since you customarily give a minority report in the event that it's not a unanimous vote, I recognize, again, this is not an official meeting, so this is not an official vote, so you may not want to do a minority report. In the event that you do, I just want to explain, I think it's too much money, it's off-cycle, and it's not aligned with what I think the mission of the town should be doing. So I disagree with the strategy. So that would be the minority report.
Okay. Did you catch on that? Oh, yeah. Repeat that again, Frank, so that
Sure,
we
I think
get
it's,
that for the record.
I think it's off-cycle from our normal capital appropriation process.
Okay,
I think it's too much money, especially in the context of other things we've discussed. And I don't think it's aligned with the strategy of what I think the town should be doing.
okay, fair enough.
And reasonable people can disagree. But
Yes, and that's what we're doing. We're all being reasonable. All right, thank you, John. Have a good evening. Okay. Whew. Minutes. I sent out with the warning the minutes from June 26th and September 11th. So I'd like to vote on approval of the minutes. I'm sure you've all read the minutes and memorized them. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for June 26, 2025? Jeff moves. Do I have a second? Rich seconds. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Thank you.
I think those are particularly well done.
Thank you. Okay, I have the meeting minutes for September 11th. Yes, sir. Okay, that's good, that's good. Okay, so you move to approve the minutes then? Okay, do I have a second? Jeff Kraus seconds. All in favor of approving the minutes from September 11th, 2025, raise your hands. Excellent, thank you very much.
What was the date of the first minutes we approved, sorry?
June 26th, thank you. And then the second was September 11th. I'm in the interest of time, it's been an interesting meeting. I'm not going to ask that we go through all the focus areas per se, but I am going to repeat my earlier statement about the fact that John did make the announcement in the, the patch, that he's officially went on record. I think it was like an interview for him as candidate, although he's running without any opposition. but he had definitely made the announcement that he's going to regenerate the PIDA, Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee. So
PIAC.
PIAC, excuse me, not PIDA, PIAC. PIAC, I never got that right.
Your comment last time?
What? I'm gonna refrain from characterizing my own comment, but I think of course, it was brilliant. So,
So
I think it's long overdue.
yeah,
So.
I'm looking forward to it. I think there are a number of people in town that are interested. I just want to make you all aware of it because if anybody has any interest to apply for it, I've already sent an email, I think I copied you all in, asking the RTM, asking the Board of Selectmen to consider having at least one person from the RTM be on this committee.
Ex officio.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly in what capacity, whether it be ex officio or be.
I just mean by virtue of being on the RTM, right, as opposed to,
I'm sorry?
just so there's an RTM representation on the committee. Right?
Yes, and that's what I'm after, yeah, an
Yeah.
RTM representation on the committee. I mean, Mark Adaletta basically did that for us in the Great Island. I see that this is similar in nature. It impacts the entire town, so I think, someone from the RTM should be there. That was my position in the email. I've yet to receive a response, and I don't think that John is quite yet ready to, they have a lot of work to do. They have to put together a charge to the committee, then they have to go out and put out notice, take in applicants, go through an interview process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing I think John's going to be looking for, though, is people who really bring to the committee some real knowledge and input to the issue of pedestrian safety. Okay, he's not going to just let a warm body just go on the committee and.
You mean the committee, so long as you never walk.
So this is our last meeting for this, RTM session. Any of those that are running for election again, I wish you all the best of luck. I am one of those, so we'll see how it goes.
Since this is not a special meeting, we don't have a restriction on our agenda because our agenda doesn't exist. We're not actually meeting, right? So I want to take a moment, Rolf, to thank you for your leadership and your hard work and your diligence through this past year, which I think has really set an example for what the next chair should do, which will hopefully be you in November.
He started already. He started already.
No, in all sincerity, Rolf,
You're way ahead of me, Frank.
You've done a wonderful job. Thank you very much for your hard
You're
work.
welcome. You're welcome. It's a learning process. There's a lot to being on the chair, and I don't think you can ever understand or appreciate it unless you do it once yourself, and then you'll best understand how much goes into it. Well, all right. If there isn't any other thing to discuss, this is a special meeting per se, then I'd take a motion to adjourn. Jeff Krause, Vincent, all those in favor, raise your hand. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, TV 79.